here we are. I think a powerful episode of the podcast because this is something I've struggled with for years as I've continued to get better and better at what I eat and understanding how food interacts physiologically in your body and these type of things. What you eat is important. Now, I'm a big proponent of what I have been doing for a while now and will probably always do, which is intermittent fasting, because it gives you some freedom to not be so strict with your food. My point is that intermittent fasting, especially what I'm doing now, which is alternate day fasting, allows me to not have to eat keto levels of carbs, like 20 or below. I generally shoot for around 80 or less is what I shoot for, and sometimes it hits 100. I have had days where it's been 125 or 150, but generally I shoot for around 80. And I'm trying to get better and better at that so that I'm eating foods that I enjoy, foods that are good for me, and we're keeping the protein high and the carbs at 80 or less. So I find that some things work really well and I really like them, and so they make their way into my diet almost every day or every day. They're definitely staples. I mean, every time I get groceries, I get them, and so that's what I'm going to share with you today. Now, to me, for a food to be a daily staple, something you could eat every day, something you want to buy every time you go to the grocery store, it has to have a few components to it. Preferably, it's natural. It's something from nature. It's not highly processed, prepackaged, heavily refined type something. You want the bulk of your diet to come from just regular old food that the good Lord intended, if you believe in that stuff, or food that we evolutionarily evolved to eat. However you want to look at it, it's the same. 6 one way, half a dozen another. So let's get to it, shall we? I was debating whether to go top to bottom or bottom to top, but I think it's going to go from number 1 to 5 because the list gets longer, more complicated as you go down. Number 1 on my list, and I found this to be true. I used to promote a high beef diet, and so while I still eat beef, I eat beef every third day or so, or every other day, or every third day, or every fourth day, or whatever. I still think beef's important. When you're losing weight, beef offers you a very high fat to protein ratio, and I'm trying to keep my protein high because I've just learned that that's what works best. Now, when I was strictly keto, the goal is to keep fat high because it is satiating, and it is. There's no doubt about it. Keto folks are right. I can speak from experience. Keto is definitely the way to go for satiation, no question about it. However, I have learned, since I have been following people like Dr. Ted Naiman and others, the power of protein in weight loss, body recomposition, and your long-term ability to be stronger and sustain your weight loss and satiation, that protein is actually the macronutrient you should be focusing on. So you're still going to be eating basically fat and protein. You're just going to be eating more protein than these keto folks do. And we're starting to see that change now, like keto, and there's all kinds of forms of keto. I mean, the purest form of keto is like 90% fat. And this is for, these kids that have seizures and stuff. And I mean, there's no protein or anything in that. It's just basically all fat. Any kind of keto diet other than that is a modified keto diet. And so you modify it to best get the results you're searching for. And so it was modified for weight loss, so that you had moderate protein. And I think most people that I've seen were eating, men especially, were eating in the 70 to 80 to 90 grams of protein a day range, which is fine. It's a fair amount of protein. But I've found that by upping that, you just get so much better benefits from energy. You get the thermogenic effect. I talk about all this in previous versions of the podcast if you'd like to go check them out. Nevertheless, chicken is number 1. Lean chicken, not fried, not deep fried or anything like that. You grill it or bake it or roast it or something like that. Is lean. It's very high in protein. It's delicious and it's very filling. And so chicken is number 1 on my list. I eat chicken every day pretty much. There are occasionally days that I don't eat chicken, but pretty much every day I eat chicken. Chicken is not that expensive. It's less expensive than beef. It cooks a lot faster. I think it's easier to cook. I like to just pop it. I like to cut the breast into like little fillet strips. Pop them into the, excuse me for yawning, that's highly unprofessional. Pop them into the air fryer and season them a little bit and let them go. And that's basically the way I've been cooking it. But nevertheless, you want lean protein and chicken. You just don't get better than chicken. And so that's number one on the list. Number two is the world's superfood, broken into two categories here: eggs and then egg whites. So up until about 2 weeks ago, I was mainly eating eggs, and eggs are high protein. They're also high fat. They're high cholesterol. They have a ton of vitamins and minerals in them. They're one of the world's most perfect foods, and so for that reason, that egg should definitely be on your list. But egg whites is where you really get high protein without any of the other stuff. And so I've been experimenting with, like, if it's something I would normally eat 2 eggs in, I'll just do 1 egg, and in place of the other egg, I'll do like an egg or 2 eggs worth of egg whites, and it really bumps the protein level up, and you don't really get that much difference in taste or texture, and it's phenomenal. And you can buy egg whites, in the cartons right there where your eggs are at. It's not really all that expensive, and it's a great way to up your protein, and which is one of my main focuses. So number 1, chicken. Number 2, eggs and egg whites. Number 3 on my list is leafy green vegetables. So anything that's non-starchy. That's a pretty wide variety, but it's your salad greens, kale, spinach, mustard, collards, turnips, and then you throw in the broccolis and the cauliflowers and these type things. And that's quite a bit of variety, and they're all delicious. And if they're not delicious to you now, if you'll eat more of them, I promise you they'll become delicious, because I used to hate them. That, with a good protein source, is a good solid weight loss meal. If you combine any combination of number 1 and 2 with number 3, you've got a full meal, and it's just going to be good. It just is. If we would just eat really that for every meal, you could eat that every meal and you'll lose a ton of weight fast. Trust me. But I understand it's boring. I understand people want variety, and even I can't do it. But I do try to keep a lot of my meals that are basically that and not much more. So leafy green vegetables is number 3 on the list. Number 4 on the list, I was torn between 4 and 5, flip-flopping them, so they're about equal, I guess. But number 4 is lean cuts of beef. So where I used to advocate getting the highest fat version of beef you could find, now the opposite. You want the leanest version of beef you can find. The good news is, if you're buying steaks or cuts of meat in that category, the leaner they are, the cheaper they are. Your fatty cuts like ribeyes, etc., are very expensive, and the ones that are really lean are least expensive. So you're going to be getting the cheapest cuts, so that helps. So look for the leanest, lowest fat cuts of steak, especially if you're looking at steaks or something like that. And if you're looking at ground beef, hamburger patties, or something in that area, get it the leanest as possible. I think the leanest you can find out there is like 93.7. Nevertheless, that's what you should go with. So lean cuts of beef. Beef is highly nutritious. Chicken is high protein. It's number 1 on the list because it's good for weight loss. But as far as nutrients, eggs and beef are just very high nutrient foods. That's where you're just going to get the bulk of your nutrients, and then you throw in the leafy green vegetables on the side, and you should pretty much cover the gamut of whatever nutrients your body would need. And moving on to number 5, sometimes this is my favorite category. fat-free Greek yogurt, sour cream, and then last on the list is butter. And I think you should use butter sparingly. You don't want to get the fat content too high, but butter definitely has flavor. You know, if you need a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe you're baking chicken or something, you want to put a tablespoon, pour over the chicken or something like that. You just don't want to go crazy with the fat. That's the one thing that I've learned. This, you know, losing weight is a learning process, and the one thing I've learned is I've moved more towards protein and away from fat. And so that's why these things are on my list. My go-to fat-free Greek yogurt. Now, look, if you think you can just walk in there and grab anything off the counter that says Greek yogurt on it, usually it's going to say Greek styled yogurt. It isn't really Greek yogurt, it's Greek style. I don't even know what that means, but that's what they use. It's all horrible. It's all full of sugar and carbs and processed garbage and stuff. The one that I buy that I've really seen in pretty much every grocery store I've been in is Fage. It's spelled Phage, F-A-G-E, but it's pronounced Fage. Fage Greek yogurt. Buy the one that says 0% on it. You'll see a few different kinds. You'll see the 5%. That's high fat, which is what I used to eat and loved it. But now I eat the 0%, which is, I think it's almost all fat-free or 99% fat-free or something. But most of the fat's gone, and you get this really pure, delicious, tasty form of protein that you can do any number of things with, and there's several different ways I eat it. I like to just eat it plain. That's an acquired taste. Most people that are used to eating yogurt with all this flavoring and sugar and crazy stuff in it generally don't think this plain old fat-free Greek yogurt is all that good. But after you eat it a while and you start cutting the sugars and crap out of your diet, you'll determine that it is good. That being said, I like to mix it up too. There's several different ways I eat it now. Obviously you can put some strawberries in it. You know, take like 3 or 4 strawberries and dice it up into quarters and toss in a bowl of it. You can do the same with raspberries and blueberries. Blueberries probably the highest carbs of the berries, but you can do blueberries too, or you can do a mixture. Just don't load it down so it's crazy with that. If you want to go the artificial route, you get these water enhancers. You know, Mio makes them, but most all stores have a generic version. Walmart has a generic version. Publix has a generic version. It's a lot cheaper and it tastes the same. But get a berry one, like get a grape one, get a strawberry one, or whatever. And get your bowl of this yogurt, and you just do a squirt of that in there, and it'll flavor it up so it has a grape flavor or strawberry flavor, and it'll sweeten it with a sucralose sweetener. And so it'll be delicious, and it'll remind you of the old yogurt, but it'll be a lot better for you. Other ways I eat it, you know, I'm all about protein, so I like to buy these 0 carb protein powders. Isopure is my favorite. I have started using one that's it's ISO 100, made by Dionyze or Dionyze or something like that. Both of them though are like 0 carb per serving, but you're gonna get like 25 grams of protein in a scoop. Now you can get that. Matter of fact, that's what I had this morning. Take a scoop of that strawberry protein powder and put it in that fat-free Greek yogurt and mix it up, and you get a super high protein, super delicious, creamy breakfast. And so there's several ways to do it. I've gone on and on about that. But sour cream is good on different varieties of things that you may be mixing in on your plate. This fermented type dairy stuff is good for you. So that makes number 5 on my list. I could have mix and match some other things. I'm going to do some honorable mentions, but we'll recap the top 5 real quick. Number 1 is chicken. Number 2 is eggs and egg whites. Number 3 is leafy green vegetables. Number 4, lean cuts of beef. Number 5, fat-free Greek yogurt, sour cream, and butter. Now, I honestly wanted to put one of these in my honorable mentions. I'm going to do a few honorable mentions for you that didn't make the top 5. One of them I really wanted to squeeze in the top 5, but I just couldn't figure out what to boot out. So we'll talk about that. But first is turkey sausage. So I love to do eggs or omelets or something like that for breakfast. Put just a little bit of cheese in there, and
turkey sausage. So again, you're going to be lower in the fat and up in the protein. And so you still get the sausage taste. You still are going to get some fat, but it's going to be a lot leaner. And so your fat to protein ratio is going to be skewed more towards protein, which is what you want. So highly recommend turkey sausage. Here's the one that I've tried to figure out how to work in the top 5, and I just couldn't figure it out. But it's a big one for protein, and that is chunk light tuna in water. Don't get it in oil or any weirdness. You want chunk light tuna in water. It is such high protein. It has high levels of omega-3, which is very important, and it's just really good for you. And you can take it and mix it and match it with some of the other things like eggs, for instance. I like to take a tablespoon of I buy one of those pouches, which I think is like 2 or 3 ounces of tuna. I'll dump that in a bowl, one of those pouches, dump it in a bowl and put a tablespoon of mayo in there, and then take about a tablespoon of dill pickle relish and put it in there and mix it up. And I like it like that, and I just eat it out of the bowl. A lot of people like eggs though, so if you want to cut up a boiled egg in there, you can do that as well. I'm just not a huge fan of the egg in my tuna. But tuna's huge, man. Tuna's huge. And it's really, you should definitely be eating it a couple of times a week. I think that's why I decided it wouldn't be something I'd eat daily. I wouldn't eat tuna every day. It does have a higher, people are worried about the mercury level. The mercury level is not high, and it's not dangerous if you're eating it the way you should eat it, which is once or twice a week. If you were eating it every day of the week, you might run into some problems. But don't let them scare you with that. It's definitely good for you. And then the last one in the honorable mentions is something kind of generic, which would just be salads. And so you got to be careful with salads. I'm going to recommend kind of a specific kind of salad, which is these grilled chicken salads. So you buy your salad and you get grilled chicken on top of it. That's kind of a meal. You just got to be careful what kind of dressing you put on there. So, your blue cheese dressings are usually low carb. They are high fat, but they're low carb, which that's important. And when you put the overall meal together, it's not, the whole meal won't be high fat, even though the dressing is. Ranches, you got to be careful about ranch, but most ranches are low carb. There are some out there that aren't though, so you got to keep an eye on that. Of course, you could just do some vinegar and olive oil on there as your dressing. One of my favorite dressings is just mayo. I'll just take out a tablespoon or 2 of mayo and dump in there and mix it up. To me, that's one. You get that creamy, little tangy taste because mayo has a little bit of vinegar in it. You get a little bit of tang, but it's really creamy and rich. And anyways, salads are good, but most people screw them up with the salad dressings first of all, so don't make that mistake. And secondly, like you can get the Cobb salads. I eat Cobb salads very regularly. You can buy them pre-made, but basically a Cobb salad is just your lettuce, and then it's going to have like bacon and ham and egg in it, and then it'll come with a blue cheese dressing or something. So something along that lines are good, and I think if you eat one of those every day, you can make that your lunch every day. Grilled chicken on top of a bed of lettuce with with a good dressing on it is a great lunch. So I hope that this list has helped you write down a list of things that you really should be striving to eat every day, that you really could just live off of these things every day. It doesn't seem like that many items, but the way you can mix and mash them and cook them is just really interesting. I mentioned the leafy green vegetables and stuff. Look, one of the best ways to make that more exciting or interesting is go with the riced versions. In my freezer right now, I've got riced cauliflower. I got riced cauliflower with riced veggies, and it makes it more interesting, and you prepare it in a slightly different way. It's the same stuff though, and boy, it really is a lot of variety there if you start mixing up and being a little bit creative, and it's all hugely beneficial weight loss foods. Hope this podcast has helped you in some way. If the commercials annoyed you, if the long drawn out intro annoyed you, and if you think what we do is valuable and you want to keep listening, but you'd like to help us offset cost of everything that's involved in it, or it's just a token of appreciation, consider becoming a patron. That's over at losewithmason.com, losewithmason.com. And I love patrons, man. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Of course, you'll get the podcast if you're a patron about 4 days ahead of everybody else. It won't have commercials. It won't have fluff. And you go to the head of the line if you need help or have questions with things related to weight loss. Thank you guys so much. Hope that this episode helped you. We'll talk to you next time.